Hi everyone, welcome to another COYS Live, and this is a Cup Final Special before we play against Manchester City next Sunday. With me, I've got Klaus, also known as Lex Luthor on COYS, and I'm Nick, also known as Nick-Topspursman. So, kicking us off today, Lex, I thought we'd start by talking about what team we think Mourinho will select next Sunday, obviously, and maybe a little bit about what team we think Manchester City will play, given the fact that they have got one of the biggest games of their season 3 days later in the Champions League. So what are you thinking? What do you think Mourinho's going to do? Obviously, we've had a lot of struggles lately. How does he get out of that? How does he pick a team that he thinks can get us over the line in this final?
What I think Mourinho's going to do? I think Mourinho, that's a very good question, because Mourinho is in the death cramps of most coaches is when they start doing scattergun changes. So it gets pretty unpredictable what he's going to do. And who knows who he trusts this week as well. I think he's going to go back to his roots and be fairly low block and then hope for a counter. Exactly which shape he's going to prefer. Well, he doesn't like back fives and he doesn't like midfield threes in his career. Even when he's playing a back three with two wing backs, he often tries to somehow like sort of the lopsided formation.
Go back to three at Chelsea when that was pretty famous. Not
midfield three, but but it drops when it's low. He has a second player dropping, and often comes either two blocks of four or two lines of four with a 1-1, or he has both wings dropping, and it becomes 4-5-1. Doesn't like having like the classical low block of a 5-3-2, where you have like five in the back line, three in the midfield, and then two stressors, because it's vulnerable for the quick side change. I think it doesn't like that. So I think we will defend either with two lines of four or potentially with a back line of five and then a midfield of four. I don't think we'll see a 5-3-2, for example, not low. And we are going to be spending most of the time defending low, most likely. So I'll say 4-4-1-1 low, 4-4-2 maybe low, but it will realistically probably a 4-4-1-1 low, with the 10 and the 9 standing high, stressing, and the two wingers dropping in to join the two defensive midfielders in front of a four-man defensive line.
Do you think he might revert to the tactics we used when we beat City at home, when he played Sissoko and Højbjerg, and they were dropping into those kind of side of the centre-backs, into making almost like a back six? Do you think he'll go back to that for this game, given that we won that game?
That would be the sensible thing for a sensible coach in a good moment. Like going by what he's used to, what he likes, what the team has been used to, what the team already has been drilling in the past, what we tended to do that looked good structure-wise. But I don't think he trusts Sissoko anymore. And I don't think he trusts wings, of course, which leaves him in a bit of a bother, basically, playing that. So that's also, I think, we've been seeing Højbjerg has been looking quite shy lately because he's tired and maybe doesn't react well to not being confident in a team that's not well set up. But also because now we're actually playing with a 6, an 8, and a 10. So like the spaces for the 6 to cover has changed. And that means that he feels a little bit out of ease. I think Mourinho might go back to double 6, but then he has to trust Sissoko, or he has to trust Tanguy to do it.
And they're not, and Tanguy not a 6.
Doesn't have the instinct. He's trying. He's running.
He tries. He's not in a position though.
But you see, he looks and then he runs instead of running immediately back into the shape.
It's not an actual instinct.
No. Yeah. He because he wants to stay high. It's classic for a last third player to see if that we break, he can be in a position to receive it higher. But if it's
a classic proactive player playing in a reactive system. Basically, he's using his instincts to go. I'll go forward, and then oh god, no, we've got to go back. And what happens? You get the confusion. I think that's what happens a lot with those types of players.
Yeah, but I think you can also see that he's been playing. He's been allowed to have quite a lot of. He's not been part of the main block defensively in his career a lot, because even as an 8, if you do have main responsibilities in the shape, you will be running back into shape the moment if you're not pressing, the moment you lose the ball. And he kind of likes to hang around high and see if we can re-break, we can press and re-break, and he can stand high and re-receive it. But
he's best at Lyon, he played in that midfield 3 with Toussaint and Iowa, and they were dual 8s, and then Toussaint was the 6, and Tanguy and Hussein would quite often share the juice in terms of, okay, well, you're going, so I'll tuck in slightly, and that they had a very good system there. But obviously, we're not playing that at all, and I think he'll probably go back to, like you said, but Sissoko. But then you're quite right; he has definitely definitely lost faith in
I think he
Sissoko.
would like to, and I think it might be best to. Can he trust Sissoko? Sissoko has been lazy at times in defensive phase, which never used to be.
Definitely.
And he's been like nonchalant. He's been looking like Ori, as like looking
it's funny when I saw him for Newcastle. I saw him years ago for Toulouse, and he looked all right as a youngster. But when I saw him for Newcastle, the reason I didn't want him is because I didn't think he had a fantastic attitude at all, and he would switch off a lot. When he first came to us, he showed some of those tendencies as well, where he was quite lazy, not in the sense that he runs about a lot, so it gives the impression that he's working really hard.
He runs
he'll do
about
things
a
like
lot.
He used to, and someone will run off with his shoulder, and he'll see them, and he'll just go.
That's it.
And that's laziness.
That's laziness. And he has the engine. We know he has the engine. Even though he's getting a little bit older, he has the engine. So, and I haven't seen that for years. For years, it's been like a defensive monster. Yeah.
With his qualities, he hasn't got an excuse. Like, that has to be what he's good at, because he's offering nothing in the other department. So if you can't even do that, it's a real dilemma.
And to loop it back into the original question, what do I think Mourinho would do? Well, there you have the $1 million question. I think he would like to play with 2 lines of 4. I think he would like to play with 2 sixes. I think he would like to hit it on the counter mainly. Whether that's a 4-5-1 with the wingers drops fully into it, or 4-4, or they will drop fully into it, a 4-4-1-1 or a 4-4-2, whatever. I think he'd ideally like a 4-4-1-1, 4-4-2 with 2 number 6s. Does he have 2 number 6s? Maybe not, and that's a problem. So but you would probably opt for it.
If you were putting money on it and the game was tomorrow, for example, what do you think at this moment, if you had to guess? And I totally agree with you. I think it's very scattergun at the moment, so it's difficult. But what do you think your gut in the 11? If you run me through who the 11 will be, if in your gut, what he will pick.
Well, Lloris will be in goal, and then I reckon he has let Aurier back into it, and he doesn't seem to trust Tanganga a lot either in general. So I think Aurier will be right back. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't surprise me that when the chips are down, it's going to go for Alderweireld, even though apparently they got a beef, because it just knows that if they have to actually stand low, defend well, cover players well, keep the line, he reads the game so well. And if they're standing low anyways, like, his pace is not going to be much of a problem. So he's probably going to start. I reckon, unfortunately, he's going to go for Dyer as well. When the chips are down, he's not going to keep Rodon. I just don't think the chips down is going to...
I should let you know, Rodon is cup-tied. He can't play.
Well, then that's that. And it's not going to go for Tanganga. Could he go for Sanchez? Well, it depends a little bit how high he's expecting us to stand, really. But if he's expecting very low block, he might go for Dyer, I think.
Yeah.
Because you just know Sanchez is going to shove someone in the back, or, lose his head, or he does that without provocation as well. And so I reckon it's going to be Dyer next to Alderweireld, but it could be Sanchez, depending on how high we want to stand. Then he's probably going to have Regis fit, right? He's going to start left if he is.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think Davis is back. I haven't heard really anything.
I reckon Regis will start. He's being dodgy lately, but again, he would
when
start.
You compare how good he was against City in the home game, he was fantastic defensively against Mahrez. He was outstanding, but it's gone to pieces.
There you said it. I think he was at his best for us, extremely good defensively, which surprised me because he came here with such an attacking rep, but he basically outmarked some of the best wing forwards in the league for more than one game as well, I think. And offensively, he wants to, but again, he's playing with a lack of structure, and he's ballsy. He wants to go forward. He wants to prove himself a bit too much, even when it's not on. And that means that sometimes he cuts into players and loses it centrally, leaving a big gap behind.
Should just keep the ball, go backwards, or just play a sensible ball.
So when I say somebody should play back or cross, it's not when it's on, it's when it's not on. And he has difficulty accepting that something's not on, and he will either run into closed alleys centrally or laterally, or pass it into closed lanes.
I don't remember him being that hyped up when he played for Sevilla. Like, when he plays for us, it's like, at the moment in particular, it's like he's like, I don't know, he's taken drugs before he's played the game, and his mind's racing. He just, like, the penalty that got given against him, like, just zooming into everything.
Yeah, it's like it's a kid who drinks his first cup of coffee or something.
Yeah, he's had too much Lucozade before the game, or Red Bull or something. But obviously, he's got to be very careful playing against City as well. Because if he gets forward and we do lose the ball, as we have done shockingly, then we'll be massively exposed the way they can destroy us on the break.
But here we go back again to the shape. I hope Mourinho will as well go back to the old 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2 low, or 4-4-1-1 low with two sixes where it's laterally split. Because at least there, the sixes knew where they were supposed to be. The fullbacks knew they had a 6 to support them pulling in pitch, especially if it's Mahrez who starts, even Foden. They'll be cutting in a lot as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go through.
And I think that hurts everyone. Again, uncertainty, that's another thing about not judging players too much now, Reggie neither, is that uncertainty makes you not confident, and it makes you overthink, and it makes you fearful. And the moment you start in a quick game, starts to overthink, not be certain, maybe don't want to touch the ball, just hoping it doesn't come your way. You're done. The game's too quick for that. And if you're playing a side with good players who are well drilled, so not just that they're good players, they're well drilled.
They're quality players that are very well drilled.
Yeah, they're accelerating the game time, the speed time. It's the perfect poison in a way, like to punish if somebody's overthinking, is unconfident. So it's the perfect storm in a way. And a bit where we can maybe hamper the storm is going back to what we know, which is always good to do in crisis in general if it's not a bad system. Go back to the basics. Go back to what the players trust. Go back to where they have some automatisms, some knowledge of the shapes, where they feel secure doing certain things. That should help us gain some confidence, but also help us gain some execution and speed of execution.
So that's I think that will be key. So what do you think he'll do? What do you think he'll do in the midfield?
I think he'll offer Sissoko and Højbjerg in the middle. Yeah. And then he'll have Moura and Son on the wings, dropping into the back line when we're low. And then he'll have, if Kane makes it, Kane. And then probably Tanguy and the 10, I reckon. If you can't trust Sissoko, Tanguy will have to try and play as a 6 and not as an 8, and then Gio will come in. Gio will come in, I reckon, and then he'll play Kane up front again if he's there. If Kane is not there and we're counter-attacking, he might even play Son high.
I'm not sure he's brave enough to play Ndombele and Lo Celso in the same midfield against the team like City.
But it would be forced. Like, it's just a matter of, like, if you say I want a 6 presence, but the one I cannot trust the 2 6s I have. I can't trust both of them. He doesn't have any choice. Like, who's going to play central midfield?
I might have actually. He wants to recall Skip for the final, doesn't he? He wants to recall Oliver Skip for the final.
That will be quite legendary and funny. They're already up, aren't they? They don't need him anymore.
It can't be done anyway. I don't think it's
I don't think so.
The contracts, but
I mean that's my 11. What's yours 11? What's your 11 then?
That is pretty much exactly what I think he's going to do. I think he's going to do 11-wise. I think he's going to play Sissoko and Højbjerg with Ndombele. The only thing I've got a slight concern is whether he'll potentially play Ndombele deeper with Højbjerg and do the thing where he plays Lucas at 10 with Bergwijn coming back in. The kind of random thing that we were talking about, where someone comes out in the cold. You were seeing quite often lately people coming out of the cold just straight back into the team would have been not seen for weeks. Just kind of, now whether he'd do that in a final, I don't know. So that's the back of my mind. Would he do that? But probably, most likely, what you've said is the team I think he'll probably play. Yeah, but given that we beat them at home with the lineup.
I would hope so, but that is kind of based on calm and getting back to basics and rationality in a situation where that doesn't seem to be the dominant factor in his thinking. Yeah, he's panicking. It's classical to see a coach in a coach in panic starts to overchange.
Yeah.
And I think this is like, since we started really sliding, how many times are we changing? Not just the back four.
Back four's like 16 times, 16 different combinations this season, apparently.
Yeah, and the only system we actually look comfortable in, and like especially defensively, where the shape is kept up and the place number, is the 4-2-3-1 that can become a 4-4-2 or 1 low. But we're not even playing that regularly. When did we last play the 4-4-2 or 4-4-1 1 low? We're playing the 4-2-3-1 low now, which isn't working as well either. So the one system we actually look pretty settled in, where it's 4-2-3-1 middle and high, and then 4-4-2 low, we're not playing anymore.
No.
So
the one from earlier in the season that we kind of abandoned.
Yeah, the one we abandoned right around when was it Christmas or something?
It had flaws, but in terms of, if you're going to play it because this is the way he wants to play, then, I mean, that system was the system that he was playing. I mean, it didn't work against... You could see it wasn't going to last for me because it wasn't really sustainable with the XG for and against and things like that. But yeah, you're right. That's what he knows. So it would make sense for him to play the system that he is comfortable coaching. and putting out there. But yeah, I think the same as you. I think it will be that kind of I think he might go back to that team. But as you rightly said, there's a big caveat here because of everything going on. There could be some real, moves that happen. We're like, whoa, what is going on here? Like it could be 5 at the back, and we're like, oh, not again, 5 at the back. But it wouldn't surprise. Nothing would surprise me at this stage.
But that's it. I mean, don't expect calm and rationality for a person who probably at this moment of time isn't that calm or rational about certain decisions. I mean, it's impossible to predict at this point. But
moving into what we think, what team out of interest do you think City will play? Now I've had a little look at kind of lineup they played. Obviously, they've got the biggest game of their season coming up on the Wednesday after the cup final. They've potentially lost De Bruyne for we don't know how long. They're waiting for the results, so that could be a week. It could be 2 weeks. If he's potentially fit for our game, I don't think he plays. I think he saves him for the midweek Champions League
for sure.
So, given that, what kind of team do you think Guardiola will play against us in the final?
Well, first you have to consider which shapes or formations he generally tends to prefer. I think it's going to be, he basically only varies from a 4-2-3-1 with 2 6s more or less, or like 1 6 and 1 8, and a 4-3-3 with 2 10s. So the main variance is basically just how offensive will the second of the 3 centre midfielders be. And how will the shape be? So I don't think it's gonna be even as close to a Champions League, the Champions League's game. I don't think it's gonna be that conservative. I think he mainly only goes 4-2-3-1 if he's like seriously freaked out about conceding or very scared. Not so sure he will be, and even if he was, he might want to defend with the ball and and actually increase positional strength versus defending or having less ball players.
Do you think he might slightly underestimate us? You know him quite well as a coach. Do you think he'll slightly underestimate us purely because he's under so much pressure to win the Champions League and they are very, very close?
The funny thing is that
they're 3 games away from winning it. And we are so bad at the moment. Or do you think
he's such an expansive coach who normally defends a lot with the ball and was very who rather defend by being aggressive than being defensive. Yet in the Champions League, a lot of his doom has been that when it's really been time to choose, he's lost his nerve a little bit. He's gone either defensive or in new shapes.
He's kind of famous for it now, isn't he? The last 3-4 seasons, he's made a crazy kind of lineup choice in every game almost.
Might he be in that frame of mind with us? I don't think so. I'm not so sure. I don't think so. But also because if he plays, well, then he has been playing Zinchenko as the 6th even, I think.
He did against Leeds. Zinchenko was with, I think was it Rodri? And then he had, I can't remember who the third midfielder was, but he definitely had Zinchenko as one of the midfielders, Because I remember I glanced at the screen before I started watching probably, and I saw Mendy playing, and I assumed he was left back. Then I saw Zinchenko, and I thought I was going crazy.
No.
He's got 2 left backs. But
well, he did it with Lam as well. He has done it before, pushing in a ball playing fullback.
So I had a little look. I've predicted that I think they'll play. I think Edison will be in goal if he's fit.
Yeah.
I think he'll go with Mendy at left back.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think he'll go with Cancelo at right back. That one big caveat depends how fit he is, because if he's fit enough, he might want to use him in the Champions League. But I could see him going for Walker up against Mbappe or Neymar on that side of the pitch.
I think you're right
in that game because of Walker's power defensively to cover that. So I think he'll probably go Cancelo at right back. I've gone for. I think he'll play Diaz and Laporte, and I think he'll rest John Stones. He's got a tendency to rest one of the 2 centre backs either side of a Champions League game. Now the interesting area for me is like what you were saying. I think Gundogan will definitely play because De Bruyne is not playing, and he won't want to be without both of those in a cup final.
No, he's been trying to juggle that so far, resting one.
Yeah, he's tried to rest one. But if De Bruyne is out, there's no way he's not playing Gundogan in that match because they're talisman. So I think he'll probably play him in the midfield 3 with Bernardo Silva, I think, and I think he'll play. I'm wondering whether he'll play Fernandinho and give Rodri a rest, because he's got to find that balance between having 3 or 4 players that get a complete break and have fresh legs. So I could see him maybe using Fernandinho's experience in the cup final and then the Champions League he brings Rodri in, unless, as you said, he goes to the sixes in the Champions League and he goes for Fernandinho and Rodri, in which case he might change his mind with who he plays in the cup final. And then
I think he might actually go double six against PSG and 4-3-3 with 2 10s against us, because
I think that's what he'll do with. I think he'll have Silva and Gundogan quite advanced against us.
Yeah.
With Fernandinho or Rodri holding one of the two.
So who do you think is going to play on the wing forward positions and on top?
I think he'll go for Sterling on the left, because Sterling hasn't been starting in the biggest game. So I think Sterling will be on the left. The tough thing was the right hand side. I got the feeling he might play Torres, because I think he'll probably play Mahrez against PSG.
I think so. Right. Which releases
Foden, I think, will be false 9 against PSG, given that De Bruyne won't be fit. So I think Jesus will play against us, and Sterling, Jesus, and Torres.
I think you might be right. He might also give Aguero a nice last wave off.
I think, you know what?
Chance of a trophy and leading the team, and for a trophy in an.
I keep assuming he's injured because he's not playing much. But yeah, you're quite right. If he's fit, he'll probably play Aguero.
I think Aguero might start.
Yeah, and he's got the right wing.
As for the right wing, a lot depends on his ambition for the PSG game. So Foden, I think he should even be a choice for them as a future striker, centre forward, because Pep likes those kind of like complete wing forward types who can then just needs to learn to hold the ball a little bit and will be fine. Like, he can do everything else he wants. And in Pep's system as a centre forward, but he hasn't actually been using him that much as a false 9. So is he going to use it suddenly against the PSG?
Or maybe use Jesus and play Foden and Mahrez from the sides? Maybe he could do that.
I'm saying, but again, Pep in important Champions League games have been a bit unpredictable as well. So we're talking about two coaches who...
I know we're talking a bit about their Champions League game, but I think it does affect our game quite a bit, because it's such a massive game. And
I think Aguero is going to start on top. I think it's going to be a nice gesture. Yeah. He's better. He's like, they're going to be camping in the last third. Small spaces.
Sterling, Aguero, and Torres. I can see that. And then he's got Jesus, Foden, and Mahrez.
Potentially Foden, depending on his plans for the PSG. Potentially Foden can always if they get ahead or get subbed, he gets subbed out. So.
His gamble will be, if De Bruyne is out of our game, he's not going to want to potentially lose Gundogan or Foden for the PSG game either. And that's going to be his dilemma, because he's not just going to want to say, it's Tottenham would play a rubbish team against Tottenham. No, but he's going to have to decide. He's going to have to weigh up. He's going to have to weigh up the priority. And to me, I'm not a City fan, but to me, everyone is going on about City need to win the Champions League, and they're in the semi-final. And if you look at the teams left, City are probably the favourites to win it from those 4 teams remaining. Maybe Madrid's experience, but I don't think as an 11 they're as good as City. So I think that will be his major priority. And I think fans that City will be really annoyed if they lose the cup final to us, but they win the Champions League. They won't care about losing Carabao Cup. They beat us, they go out in the Champions League semi-final, they won't be happy.
And also, how long is Pep there? A year more? Like
they've got a great opportunity this year, so I just think that's going to influence his selection more than it maybe normally would.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. Nobody's going to say it publicly. It's that you're not prioritizing a domestic cup competition in a traditional country like Great Britain. But of course, he's going to go for the Champions League. And he'd also probably actually be it's a kind of like you can't say it publicly, but he would be slammed as well in the media if he didn't, and probably also by his own players and in his board. So, like, of course, he wants to win it, the Champions League. He's never won it outside of Barca, has he? So, like, he needs to show he can win it without Messi. And he needs to show he can win it, like getting amazing support for 4 years now. So he needs to. There's no doubt it's going to be his priority. The main question is, which shape does he choose there, and which players is he then going to want to rest versus us, because he's chosen a given shape for PSG, which then potentially dictates the shape versus us, which I don't think he would necessarily be scared enough to go 4-2-3-1 instead of 4-3-3. Anyways, but I think because he's probably going to go 4-2-3-1 against PSG, is going to push him towards the 4-3-3 against us. And then you think Bernardo is going to start? I think Bernardo is a big player for him in the Champions League as well.
I've had a little look, and I mean, it's let me just load up the Dortmund game. You're right; it does use Silva a little bit, but he's. I get the feeling looking at it, like for example, when they beat Dortmund at home midweek, in the was that the first leg? The first leg, he went with the double sixes, like you said, Gundogan and Rodrigo, and then he had Foden, De Bruyne, and Mahrez behind, and he had Bernardo Silva, but he was a false nine. He was actually up front.
I guess it's true.
So,
but I mean, also though, if he's starting Mahrez, I think he's going to start Mahrez actually against he has been starting Mahrez in a lot of the big games. So if he starts Mahrez on one on the right, and who do you think is going to start on the left, in your opinion?
I think he'll play Sterling
against PSG.
In the cup final. Sorry, against
PSG, who's going to start on the left? You think?
Maybe Foden, because he's played him from both sides. He hasn't just played from the right; he's played him from the left as well. See, the thing with Bernardo is he plays him in a variety of roles, and with De Bruyne out, he will be a little bit more restricted in terms of who can play in that midfield three.
But I mean, it's just a matter of basically it's a matter of guessing how he's going to set up the midfield against PSG.
Well, obviously we have to guess a little bit. That's just what I have a feeling he might do. But as you've said, it's hard to know because we don't know how he's going to play against PSG for sure, and that will influence the team. So all right, so we've covered what we think they might play and what we think Mourinho will line up with.
Maybe. Yeah.
I want a couple of things from you. I want what if City do play that team that we've suggested between us, approximately what we think it will be. How can we hurt them?
Well, this is the thing.
Let's do it first from a very generic point of view as coaches. Yeah. If we were coaches, and then let's talk about. How do you think Mourinho will agree with us? Or do you think there's any of those tactics and the way we can exploit them that you think Mourinho will disagree with?
Yep. Well, I basically think, first of all, you have to consider, I mean, of course, both sides' characteristics, like weaknesses and strengths. So City is actually a team that is fairly weak defending their own last third, but they don't do it a lot either, which is why it's not that exposed. So I think, then again, that's in, of course, in defensive phase. They're pretty strong defending high and middle high. So if we want to penetrate, basically, we have to do a direct transition, get behind them before they get organized, or we have to pile a lot of pressure in the last third to basically test them low, like when they're low in their own pitch.
Which is quite difficult because you've got to get them in that place
because we cannot do it with sustained possession. Because they are a good pressing team, so they'll attack us when we have the ball, and we're not going to be good enough because we're basically shambles in possession, to play out of the pressure and mount like a sustained possessional assault on them, push up the entire side, like have a lot of players in the last third, and then just play it around until we can find an opening in a weak low block.
Yeah.
So even though they have a weak low block, I don't think we're going to be able to maintain possession low enough to really test them in like sustained possessional attacks. What I do think we can do instead is a bit like but we have to arrive in the last third with a lot of pressure on them, but not necessarily in possession, in the sense that if we can arrive in transitions, but it's a very aggressive push in transition. So we will have a lot of numbers pushing up in transition, not just the four that we normally use, but push up the fullbacks as well, let the whole entire team follow the transitional movement, and then aggressively press when we do lose possession high on the transition. So if we don't score a goal or get a good finish, we'll lose the ball high, but we'll have a lot of players around who could then like do the gegenpressing or like counter press, because they are vulnerable in their own last third. Also when they're pressed very aggressively or like with a lot of numbers around them. So maybe what we can do is we will have to be a transitional side, because we can't maintain possession, advance possession, play it around the defensive block, expose it on one side, then do like some snappy. We'll have to attack quick on transitions, but very aggressively with high numbers, basically like a proper German transitional side.
Well,
and then if we lose the ball, press them very aggressively high in the last third. I think that's the only way we get around them.
Couple of things. So I watched them. Prof just made a good point actually about the City game yesterday against Chelsea. Did we learn anything from I didn't watch it, to
be honest.
I certainly saw some things that actually I spotted also when I watched City against Leeds, when they lost against Leeds. And for me, the big weak area of City is when that line goes very high. Their fullbacks, doesn't matter who plays, every single one of them are terrible positionally. And they are very, very susceptible to the ball inside the fullback into space between the right-sided centre-back in particular and the right-back. Now, Cancelo has been outstanding this season, but he vacates that space all of the time. And we happen to have one of the best, if not the best, off the ball mover in the Premier League in Son, because in that inside left channel, when he makes those runs, I think he's probably the best in the league at that, at making those runs off the shoulder.
He's also the only one making those runs.
And he's the only one that does it for us. And unfortunately, it makes it a little bit easier for teams to cope because they know he's the only one making
but I think
run.
Last time, Mourinho even played Son off his normal wing just so he can be matched up with Cancelo, because Cancelo is going to switch off on the run. But I mean, another thing is, I think they actually tend to push in the fullbacks quite narrow.
Because they let the wing tactics board.
They let the wing forward stand very wide.
Let's switch to the tactics board so we can discuss this a bit better, and we can talk about how we can. Can you see that? I've got.
No, not yet. Oh, there we have it.
Can you see now?
Yep.
Yep. Cool. Right now, the lineup I've gone with what I would play, and we'll cover that a little bit differently. And obviously,
that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. I know. I've gone with what I think City will play, as we discussed. Obviously, we could swap out Jesus for Aguero, but let's kind of forget the individual players within that system and look at more of the shape and how we think. So when City push high and are dominating, which
can I do that, or can only you move the things?
I can move them, but what you could do is load. If you've got your own version, you could load up your version.
No, but I'm not. I missed my old board.
I'm just gonna do when City push right up the pitch. What I noticed against Leeds in particular, right, is this.
Exactly. It's a 5-5.
Like this.
It's a 5-5 block. Actually, they're only
hang on. I'm just going to
do
do something because Cancelo doesn't go wide. They go like this almost. I'm going to have to bring Mendy in a bit. It goes a bit like that. Okay.
Yep.
I'm being rough. Obviously, I've not got the screenshots of. I did do some work on looking at City's shape, but Cancelo, if he plays, certainly even Walker at times does tend to tuck in. Like it's completely different to how you play for us.
But
for me, that when you
one thing though, you have to put us in our. If they're standing like that, in our shape, it's a stayed position, and because we'll be counter-attacking from a different shape.
Yeah, so we're going to be something like that roughly. Kane's probably going to be about here. Kane probably about here. So for me, what I noticed when Leeds were playing against City was they did two things very, very well. When they won the ball, they moved it quickly through the lines and exposed the spaces either side of the centre backs. But also, not just that, as you just mentioned briefly when you said about getting at the low block, they got numbers forward. I counted when they scored their first goal, they had 5 attacking players in and around the penalty box against City. Right, so those 5 players just went and they just bombed forward.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We have to be a transitional side, so I agree. We have to get behind them on transitions because we're not going to play. That was my point. We have to basically be a German side, like a club side or Hasselhüttl side, or actually what Mourinho himself did against Barcelona back in 2010, I think it was. Because if we just attack with we can maybe try and counter-attack only with the main transitional players that we normally do, where we only attack with 4, 2 wing forwards, a 10 and the 9. And then only if we kind of like really feel like it will push up the full backs and the team will push up and we'll try to do a little bit of
hesitancy. You've got to just go. You've got to
go. Attack, more with numbers as well, because if we lose it in the last third, it gives us a chance to repress them high. And I think they can be gotten at there. They're not that great. And when the moment they get on the ball, they're used to being a little bit lazy in the last third. They don't really like being roughed up. And they've also been gassed out. I thought they've been starting to look a little bit gassed out. So
they did yesterday. Well. And here's the thing with good teams. Yes, they're fantastic side, but also good teams create an aura around them. And what that does is most of the teams that end up playing them are beaten before they kick off. And so they don't even get at Man City's defence. Now, Leeds didn't have many shots at all. They didn't get forward anywhere near as much as they normally would. But when they did have the chance, they didn't care that it's Man City they're playing.
No,
they just went right. No, this is how we're going to get forward, and we go, and we all go together, and they get at them. So for me, for example, the reason I've got Tongi as the left-sided centre midfielder is for a very specific reason. It's to exploit Bernardo Silva because he's not as good defensively as Gundogan is, right? And also, Tongi can play the reverse pass. When he gets into this kind of area, he can link with Kane, and they can both between them easily set Son in off this, either on the outside of Diaz, exploiting the space here, or if he goes for it, the diagonal in between Laporte and Diaz, and Son is miles quicker than either of them. And if they push that high, which I think they will, given that that's how they play, 80% of the time, 85% of the time. That for me is a real weapon for us to use. But when you've got someone like Son and
for sure.
how good his movement is, and Tongi is exceptional at breaking the lines. And that's what you've got to be able to do against City. You've got to be able to beat the press.
But actually, I think the move that Werner did was actually that he does all the time. People criticizing Werner for not scoring a lot of goals, but the way this Chelsea plays right now, he'll move. If you put him between, like next to Laporte, inside though.
Yeah.
Okay, there. What he does is run diagonally deep left or deep right, and then the remaining shape will respond in coordinates with that.
Like that.
So
it goes like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Into the space.
So then the left wing back will push in and become a 10 probably, and then the 10 become a second forward. The other forward is there. The right wing forward will cut in and become the fourth man in the box. So Werner basically chooses a direction, a deep run away from the goal, deep, and then the other players then in their given drilled shape takes up the relevant remaining positions. So the 10 becomes the forward.
You see where Chelsea scored from yesterday. I mean, their move.
Yeah, but wait a minute. What I'm players. Actually, where they made trouble, is I saw only the highlights, is that Werner is where Son is now. So of course they have to play directly through the line, so City will get to pressing and reorganize. So that's of course an essential thing if you want to counter attack before the position gets organized. But what he does, I'm pointing to my own screen, which doesn't make any sense. But anyways, what Son did, what Werner did, and which permitted him to run the way he did and maybe expose him the way he did, because again, it's a different shape, so it permits different plays, is he'll run from inside and out in a diagonal towards the sideline. He will split Laporte and Diaz. But but he run diagonally towards the outside, so he pulls the defense that way, running deep in possession.
And then back out again.
Yeah, he runs from the inside and out. So he runs between Laporte and Diaz.
Yeah.
All right. And he gets fed into the channel, the wide channel.
Yeah. And then he's gone in.
And then who arrives in the center? Like I said, the 10 or the second forward, with probably the left wing back pushing in, becoming a 10.
And then we've got Lucas. Lucas has got the speed to get up there and support. So if he's coming in off, and if there's one thing you can do against Mendy will switch off all the time. So you can get off inside of him and get into space as well.
For sure. But if a Son starts century, like I said, he might actually be able to do the Werner run inside and out. Okay. And we have to be a bit careful not anticipating that you can do the same move from different shapes and different positions on the pitch against a given team. Because if you're running from the outside and in instead of from the inside and out, it's a different, like the spaces are different, of course, and the way you'll get in position is different. And actually, it sets up the runner running from the outside and in. It sets him up to actually get a finish himself, which is what Son did when he scored against them. Last time he ran from the right in the blind angle of the... So Kane fell deep, and Son was on the right to match up against.
He came in like that.
Yeah, he came in the blind angle, which I'm always talking about, and he had running from the outside and in, which permits you to get a finish off. So it's two different ways of running. But one is where you have to position yourself outside, run blind angle inside, and then one is where you position between the fullback and the centre back, confusing them a bit, but who marks you. Then you're running outside where there is no one because they're quite narrow. So, but then you have to have the 10 or the centre forward arriving to be on that front post or the penalty spot, I think, for the cross.
The issue if Son starts in this kind of position,
he has to go out. Then he has to run out.
He has to run out, but also we lose Son's energy and his movement in these kind of areas, which will cause Cancelo direct problems, as he did playing on the right against him. So we will lose that, because if Son starts, and if Son when he starts central and he's too restricted, which I fear he could be if we're playing against City, he's not the same player. When he plays from the sides, I think his movement is better.
No, I agree. I just made the point that...
what you're saying is if he starts here, for example, you're saying really the ball's got
to come blind angle the fullback.
He's got to do the blind angle down here, go like that, almost into this space for the player.
Which also gives him a finishing position.
Maybe you're looking at more like Gio to feed the ball through into Son.
Exactly. I think that's the run he'll have to make. He'll have to make outside and in run in a blind angle and then get fed either by Kane if he's there or by the 10 and run towards goal, basically.
So for me, another weakness of City is in their build-up is they don't really have a plan B. And I think we've seen this before. And I think we actually pulled this off quite well at home, which is, for me, if there's one thing you want to do against Man City, it's force them to cross the ball. force them into things that they don't want to do, and that's putting a ball into the penalty box. Because aerially, if they score, then we can look at ourselves and say it's a shambles, because there's no way Toby and whoever plays centre back should be getting beaten by Sterling, Jesus, or Torres in the air. Certainly, now, if it's a good low ball, fair enough. But for me, we want to try and restrict them and push them out, push Torres, push Cancelo into areas like this. And then the big key here for me is we've got to stop the third man run that they're so good at, which normally is De Bruyne. The amount of times in a game, if I've got him here, if this is De Bruyne instead of Silva here, the amount of times he makes this run
but
here and cuts
you have to ask yourself why
ridiculous.
He makes that run. He makes that run because they play with a wide front three.
Yeah, they try and stretch it.
They stretch the fence to make a channel for the 10 to run
So
into.
for me, I sacrifice the ability to be tight to the winger out wide. I tuck in, I let him get the ball wide, and I say to him, come at me, run at me, put the ball in the box and put the ball in. And
but you know what's going to happen then?
Space.
Cancelo's not going to be where you are, because they're not
Cancelo's
classically.
It's going to be,
Even further, a little bit further behind. City only overlaps occasionally when it makes sense.
What I'm saying is,
if you have this, like you said, Silva's going to run probably blind angle in at that point, inside. Okay, at that point, maybe Cancelo pushes in and becomes the 10, and Torres becomes a right back.
He tends to go back here.
That's how they do it. They don't want to get into crossing positions. They'll use like positional switching in those. They have like 4 triangles they can positional switch in. Where one runs, the other one takes his position, the third one takes the leftover position, and suddenly one of them, because that way you create space where you run into, because now you have a player running into space that's not his. But you also create space where you ran from, because then again, the marker might have been pulled away and somebody else is running into that. And they do this kind of positional rotating between wing forward, center forward, and 10 of that side, on either side. Or at times, even with the fullback, so fullback, wing forward, and 10. And Arteta's copied that at Arsenal as well. But that's how they're going to do it. So they're not just going to like give it to the wing forward, like Poole will give it to the wing back. Get the head up, nothing's on. Oh, I'm going to cross it. Not that Poole does that. They actually do it.
No, they're not. But if you notice, when we played them at home, they started to put a few crosses in City. Because they were getting frustrated. They were getting annoyed. Because and what we've got to try and do for me is stay narrow. Let them get the ball out to Torres or out to Sterling in wide positions and try to keep that compactness so that you've got to almost force them to cross the ball. Say there's no space here. Like we did.
That's the whole point of it.
We did one thing quite well against City at home. I don't love the tactics of sitting back all the time, but it was the fact that we denied the spaces here. And we made them go to these areas, and they crossed the ball quite a few times. And we was like, all right, thank you very much. And set pieces, you've got to watch out, because Diaz, the 4 stones are good in the air and they attack it well. But in general, I mean, if you look at the positions they've taken up here, this isn't that untypical of how City will get themselves when we're low block, right? But look at Son. Now, the ball goes out wide. Let's say the ball's gone to Torres here, right? Son is ready to spring. Son's ready to go. And Lucas can do a little bit more of the dog work here. Son's the one that's got to be the prime player that can make things happen when we transition, when we counter attack. He's the only real world-class off the ball mover that we've got, really, because Lucas's movement off the ball for the speed that he has is terrible. His movement is really weak.
We only have one other player who will attack deep with any skill, and that's Dele Alli, and he's not been in form,
and he's not going to play. So for me, is there anything else you see with City? Is there anything else?
I'm just saying this. I'm not sure they'll actually. I only saw the highlights against Chelsea, and they kept on trying to play the deep ball.
They did. They kept trying it.
And maybe in that game, they could have gone to a narrow front 3 with the wing backs foot pushed up, and because they have small players, they have to do what Liverpool does, which is a quick side shift. Then you have the entire defense shifting from one side to the other, leaving blind angles for the diagonal cross. Yeah. And they can attack the diagonal ball in the blind angles, the small players, and actually get on headers. That's why Jota is suddenly scoring headers for Liverpool. But of course, I mean, your logic is sound. Yeah. You don't defend wide against a team that wants to play through ball centrally. I mean, the only way you can do that a little bit is if you go to a back 5, which also some teams do against City.
They do, yeah. I mean, like City.
I'm just not sure it's going to result in what we would hope, that they're just gonna like get frustrated and launch crosses into small players.
The problem is we're not drilled in that system every week, and you've got to know what you're doing. You've got to know, like Chelsea have been well drilled in that way of playing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think what they might try and do instead is, because they're so cute and so quick in the small spaces, they're gonna like I said, push inside the fullbacks and do these kind of like a cute.
Yeah, I mean, this position here, where Silva is here, and on the right side, the amount of time City score a goal from a pullback from this position is just unbelievable. It really is.
But remember when I said one of the first ones, it's not about who is where, it's about the shape that is kept constant, basically. Yeah. And that's what they do. I think the shape will be quite constant, basically what you put up, but they'll try through like 1-2s and position rotating between 3 players most often.
Yeah.
Pull players out from our compact block, because we're going to get confused who follows, who stays, and they will somehow pull us apart with quick 1-2 passing, even if we are standing low block like that, because they are used to creating those kind of spaces by either dribbling or 1-2s and positional switching. They're not going to try and do it like Liverpool with a quick side shift and then have this entire defense shifting over and then hit the blind angles. They're going to try and do it by positional switching in those 4 triangles, positional switching,
and making the markers like Regulon and Aurier.
And if you have players who are confused, who are not confident, who are slow like Dyer, there's no leader in the back, they are going to make mistakes. We are going to arrive late. We might make a penalty because somebody's going to figure out, it's going to be running behind us. If I was them, I'd just keep on. I would go narrow like you, but I might do one more thing. But
go on. And what's that? What would you do?
I would, regarding who I'd start, which we'll loop into that. I'd actually say I want to play with 2 6s in midfield. I want to play with 2 lines of 4 as an outset and a 1-1 to stress them. But if you can tactically surprise someone and it actually makes sense as a game plan as well, it's going to shake them up a little bit because they didn't prep for it, and it's still opportunity to do. So at the second 6, I can't trust Sissoko. You can't trust Winks if you're Mourinho. You can't trust Tankwe, even though he's really trying this year, because he just doesn't have the defensive kind of instinct. Yeah. So who's left? Who do we have going to play a 6? Who has played a 6?
Not Dyer.
He's the only one, man. It's the least of the worst. It's the least worst of the
lack of agility, though. Dyer in midfield, the lack of agility.
But it's not about that. It's more about being able to laterally split 2 6s and recreate the old shape that we had.
Right.
It's not a perfect solution, but it's the least bad solution. And what does that permit us to do? If Tanke is then at the 10, we can also do. We can let Dyer drop when we're low. In a low block, and go 5-4-1 like that. 5-4-1.
Oh, okay. You're saying if Lo Celso becomes Dyer, for example, you're saying it could drop in like that, and then you've got Højbjerg.
And then Ndombele becomes when very low. Yep.
Yeah, and then
when we're high in the pitch, we have our 2 6s, dividing the same shape as we used to. But when we're very low in our own last 25 meters, 30 meters, Dyer can, if we see it in the game that we can't contain them in 2 lines of 4, we can push Dyer into the back 5 at this point to have better density, because they're still opening us up with the positional switching and 1-2s. Make it a back 5. We still have 2 wing forwards who can attack space on the counter. We still have Kane who hopefully can come against it laid off and then run deep. And then it has to be Ndombele who hits it deep when it's a layoff from the 10.
Yeah.
So that would allow us to counter attack more or less in the same way. And it will give us a little bit more compactness and density in the back 5 at that point. Cool. It's a potential variation that also allows us to play with 2 6s.
Interesting. It's not something I would have thought of, but with Dyer, but
I would start in the 4-4-1-1.
I get what you're saying.
Keep it as
we could really have done with Skip in this game, to be honest, as well. He's been playing with his natural defensive instincts as well to cover those spaces, but
but what's important though, what we both agreed on, is this is when we're low, trying to contain them. When we counter-attack with just giving Regulon and Aurier, well, in this case it's Aurier. Just go and press high. Let the whole team push up and
then if they try and break on us, but we've got enough numbers, we can force the ball out for a throw in or out for a goal kick, whatever, and we can recover up our shape and we go again, basically.
Yep. We have to be brave enough to attack with the fullbacks immediately, even on transitions, and initially press high. We don't have to do it all game through. We can choose intervals we do it in, but I think that's how we can try and maximize a little bit actually getting behind them. Basically, try and be a real transitional side.
Yeah.
Dare to press high, at least in periods, with the fullbacks helping to create that density.
So I know obviously we've got a lot of issues at the moment, so we won't go into them. But
no.
I guess the last thing for us to talk about, obviously we've covered quite a few things there. Tactics. Is there anything else you wanted to briefly talk about, or is that pretty much?
Not really. The only thing I would say is that we have to actually basically, I said, we have to copy Liverpool or be a real transitional side. Another thing is we use basically the same shape as them. So in the moments where we do have sustained possession, we also have to copy their very basic way of playing in sustained possession. Cut back to the 6. One thing Dyer can do, he can hit a pretty mean side shift it, boom, to the other wing, to the other advanced fullback, immediately cross it into the blind angles or run to the back line and a cutback, your favorite move. And because basically that's a very reduced kind of difficulty level play, but it's very effective. That's why Liverpool does it as well. So, and
against a City who you might catch with not great numbers and who, as you quite rightly said, don't like defending, and they're not used to defending because teams haven't got the bravery.
That's it. We have to
go
counter-attack. We have to press high in moments, at least when we lose the ball, counter-attacking high to gain the gegenpress and that second transition. And also when we do have sustained possession, cut back, side shift, immediate ball into the box or run to the back line, cut back. Very simple.
You see it. I put Tanganga at centre back there. Just that was for you, Lex, because I know you're with me on that.
I appreciate your thoughts.
Cool. All right. So I guess to finish then, I suppose I have to ask you, Lex. One, have we got any chance of winning? And two, what? Go on, give me a prediction.
Well, there's always a chance. And do I think we're likely? No. Do I think we're even like a semi-likely? No. But there is a chance that the thing of the Champions League, they are looking gassed out. If we just, let's see what team we put up. I've been saying this every match for the last month. What is our formation? What's our mentality? Have we been practicing anything in possession?
You're staying on the fence. You're not going to make a prediction until you see
very low, but not impossible.
My dad always taught me that at the end of the day, it's 11 against 11. In a one-off match, you've always got a chance, even if you're playing terribly. But I agree with you. It's a very low chance, but we're playing the best side around. But they have got, as I keep saying, they've got the biggest match of their season coming up 3 days later. And if there's something we can take and give a little bit of hope, it's that. Now, all right, they might use this as a warm-up. That's worst case scenario, but we could take advantage of them being just a little bit distracted, and maybe
another thing in all our crises. Like, if you want to see the positive in everything, is that, I mean, it does create momentum for kind of a clear the air moment.
It does
in the squad,
and between
like where they sit down together and say, "Listen, there's been trouble. Forget about it. We play the rest of the season now." Maybe Mourinho might even admit that we have to be in it together. Everybody makes mistakes. Let's forget about it and try and create a cohesive. Because that could also really kind of give them like, let's go for it kind of attitude. And I think this
players should have pride as well playing in the final,
But besides tactics, it's going to be energy. This game is going to, because
energy,
every game is, but this maybe especially, they are looking a little bit gassed out. They are thinking about a massive game. They don't want to get injured, a lot of the players. So it's a game where energy, like the little team, can gain some momentum just by aggressiveness, just by energy, just by momentum. And if it's the game plan we need to do anyways, dare to transition in more numbers than usual, dare to press high in moments. And so that's it, energy and a bit of balls, and more numbers when we counter attack.
Cool. Well, thanks for that today, Lex. It's been really insightful, and I think we've had a couple of good debates there and brainstorm a few ideas. But let's see what happens, and hopefully we'll win the cup next week, and we can put that ghost to rest and celebrate again. All right. So thanks everyone for watching. Come on, you Spurs, next Sunday. Come on.